Hello, I'm Joe Stefanoni, Membership Director for the National Grange, and with me today is Burton Eller, the National Grange's Director of Legislative Affairs. Burton, thank you for joining me today. Have a little discussion about what we can expect to see from Washington in this upcoming year. Obviously, the biggest thing going on in Washington will be our federal election in November of 2020, but outside of that, we can expect to see some big changes on Capitol Hill with the loss of Senator Pat Roberts of Kansas and Congressman Mike Conway of Texas. Both of these longtime Aggies have decided to retire. They've both been involved with production of multiple farm bills. So Burton, can you tell us a little bit about what the loss of these two legislators is going to look like for both the House and Senate Ag committees?
Well, you're losing a lot of institutional knowledge, people with a history, particularly Pat Roberts. He was a staff member director for Congressman Keith Sebelius from Kansas many decades ago. So he was a country-raised kid from out in western Kansas that came back to work a little while in Washington and stayed. When Keith retired, Pat decided to run for Congress and got elected. When Dole retired from the Senate, Pat decided to run for the Senate and got elected. So western Kansas, agriculture and rural America has had a ground-raised senator there for many, many years. Losing him, it loses a lot. But the great thing about it is there's some other senators that are ready to step up. America sends good people to Congress that eventually, like cream on milk, raise to the top. And I do expect the Ag Committee, depends on the shifts of the committees. I mean, if you have seniority and there are 3 different committee chairmen coming up in the next Congress, you sort of have your choice. So we'll see how that shakes out on the Senate side. For Mike Conway on the House side, he was chairman of the Ag Committee until 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, and now he's ranking member. We lose, again, institutional knowledge and a strong fighter. Mr. Conway was a very strong advocate for agriculture in rural America. We do have 4 members of the Republican side of the Ag Committee that are vying for that ranking membership. I mean, I'm not going to say who they are because some of them might think we're for or against, but there's some very strong congressmen from Ag districts that are vying heavily for that position of ranking member. I think we'll be in great shape in the agriculture committees on the Hill. No matter what happens in the next Congress, on the House side and the Senate side, we have strong chairman now on the House side and a strong ranking member on the Senate side. We probably are most fortunate of all the businesses in the country as far as having the right people in the right committee structure supporting America, agriculture and rural America issues.
And Burton, you bring up a great point that over the National Grange's 152-year history, we've historically been a nonpartisan organization supporting issues rather than people and parties. So speaking of those issues, what are some of the legislative action items or legislative priorities for the National Grange this upcoming year?
Well, we're trying to get some tax extenders passed. There is a few tweaks to the estate tax legislation that I just saw a letter that we agreed to go on a month ago, and we're up to 450 groups and individual companies, mostly entrepreneurs, for a tweak to the estate tax law. We are desperately trying to get some ag worker legislation through so we can have some legal help on farms and ranches and food producing areas of the country. Appropriations, funding, that type of thing for the Department of Agriculture, for the other agencies of government will be a big fight in December. Unfortunately, next year is an election year, and there's going to be a lot of chaff and not much wheat behind the combine. And by that, there's going to be a lot of hot air. Unfortunately, it's not a year to get a lot done. We must get the USMCA trade agreement between Canada and Mexico and the United States passed. There's way too much political bickering back and forth now between the Democrats and Republicans here, and our friends in Mexico have given and given and given, and they're about to say enough. If you're not satisfied with this, we may just walk. That's a shame, because all 3 countries benefit. Interesting thing, if you ever follow a car from a piece of iron going into the making till it rolls out on the showroom floor, the times that the pieces and parts of that car cross the 2 borders is amazing. So it's almost like we are a engineering plant between the three countries on much of what we do. And our major ag markets for the United States production of agriculture is Canada and Mexico. So it's very, very necessary we get that done. China's causing us a lot of trouble, not only in agriculture, but in the entire economy, and we understand what the fight's about. China's been robbing us dry on technical and information intelligence issues, and we've got to stop that. But in the meantime, it's awfully painful on agriculture. The tariffs are basically hurting agriculture. The payments in lieu from the department are helping, but that can't go on forever.
Well, outside of the legislative halls, what issues are the National Grange focusing on throughout Washington, D.C. in terms of regulation or infrastructure improvement?
Well, we're sure looking at increasing more broadband through the regulatory process. The Grange has been doing this for decades, and it's time. Everyone in Washington seems to be willing to put some muscle and money behind rural broadband deployment today, which is interesting. The deployment of medical technology into areas that are losing hospitals and doctors' offices and specialists has become a top priority. I wouldn't have thought that would necessarily be one of our two top priorities just a few years ago. But medical care into rural America is a serious, serious issue now. And that's where broadband, rapid deployment, high-speed technology, and clinics in place of hospitals I'm excited. I mean, 10 years from now, rural America could see a rebound based on just high-speed technology and satellite clinics. I'm excited.
Well, as we mentioned, 2020, we're going into a presidential election. This February, Grange members across the country are going to have an exciting opportunity traveling to New Hampshire for their first in the nation primary. Can you tell us a little bit about what our Grange members are going to get to experience there?
The Grange has developed a tradition over the years that they participate in the first in the nation presidential primary in New Hampshire. And New Hampshire is very proud of that reputation of being first in the nation. We're inviting Grangers and particularly youth from all Granger families or not, friends of families, to come and spend 3 days with us going through the history of the first in the nation, some of the history of some of the first 13 colonies, of which New Hampshire is one. We've been very fortunate in the past to be able to go to the Capitol and visit all the historical documents and sit in the Senate and House chambers. Saturday, we'll go to Manchester, and our Grangers will have an opportunity to become heavily involved in the campaign of their choice, whether it's Democrat, Republican, whether they like this one or that one, or maybe it's someone from their home state. We're asking them to tell us who you want to go campaign for that day, and we'll deliver you that morning, and you can spend the day campaigning for the candidate of your choice. We'll come back in the afternoon to the media center, where I've never seen such a layout. Basically, it takes a floor of a major hotel to store the equipment and operate the equipment of the International Press Corps that cover this event. And 4 years ago, we were fortunate enough to have several candidates wander through the hotel lobby where some of our young people were, and they had their pictures taken, and that was exciting. They have maybe hear about a press conference across town. They can run over there, and they can look face to face with the candidate. So it's really a unique opportunity. It's something that the Grangers are proud of.
Very nice. The Grange is all about member engagement and member action. Can you talk a little bit about what the greatest tools the National Grange has at its disposal in terms of legislative action and advocacy?
Whether it's legislative action, regulatory action in an agency, or a high-profile public policy issue, Grange has a value that most organizations and most companies would give anything for, and that is a grassroots membership down at Crossroads America. The individual Grange member has a lot of strength that I don't think we've maybe tapped as well as we will in the future. I was fortunate enough many years ago to do some work with the Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, a grand old gentleman, and he always reminded the freshman congressmen and congresswomen up for re-election, boys and girls, all politics is local. I don't think our Granges have fully recognized in recent years the value of local politics. If you're a member of Congress and you hear something from back home from like a district office that, hey, so-and-so stopped by today and this is a real concern, that will get to the boss tonight. You can have 50 people and 500 lawyers go in that office to try to lobby them during the day, and that may not get to the congressman. But when it comes from home, it will get to the congressman. So we are sought after as an organization to partner on our partner issues with a lot of other folks that we might not otherwise. The Grange doesn't have a lot of resources and they don't have a large staff, but we do have one thing that everybody wants on their team, and that is a grassroots member.
Burton, thank you for joining me today. For more information about the National Grange's policies and programs, you can visit our website, www.nationalgrange.org.